Good morning, Ellen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Ellen.
Hello, good morning. Oh, I must be front and center, Bonnie. What did you do to me?
You're always front and center, Ellen.
Oh dear, okay. There's no hiding me today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, everybody. All right, well, it looks like we got everybody in from the waiting room and it's the top of the hour, so I'll go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the warm introduction for what is my morning here in the Eastern time zone of the United States. So hello to you wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us today on this call. I appreciate it. And thank you also for your participation in the 2022 annual meeting as a session chair. We could not put this meeting on without you. Thank you so much for volunteering your time and your talents to put this meeting together. We all truly appreciate it. As I said, my name is Ellen Snipes. I am the Director of Meetings and Exhibits with AOCS, and I'm honored to get us started today. Just for a little bit of background on the meeting, this year we are planning 600 individual presentations with over 80 sessions over 3 days. Now, as of Monday, we had 938 registrants for the meeting, and based on history, we know that we're going to still pick up quite a few more registrations between now and the annual meeting. So we anticipate when it's all said and done, we will have approximately 1,400 registrants for this meeting, which will be a very good size for our annual meeting. Now, the 2022 annual meeting will be AOCS's first hybrid meeting, which is no small undertaking. Of the 600 planned oral presentations, approximately half will be presented from the podium in Atlanta. The other half will be presented via a pre-recorded video. So as you think about your session, right now you can assume that only half of your speakers are going to be presenting from the podium in Atlanta, and half will be presenting via a pre-recorded video. And we can look up for you the exact specifications as far as how many in person and how many remote. But for now, just assume it's right down the middle, half and half. Now, all presentations will be shown to the in-person audience in Atlanta, as well as live streamed out to our virtual audience and recorded for on-demand viewing at your leisure. Now, joining me today for this training are members of our planning team. We have Bonnie Boucher from Conference Direct and Robert Woods from Breakout, the virtual meeting platform. And I'll hand it over to Bonnie first for a quick overview.
Great. Thanks, Ellen. Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to learn about this virtual meeting platform and how you, as a session chair, will interact with it during the meeting. With a hybrid meeting, there are some things that remain the same, but there are some new elements this year that we wanted to cover with you. So a quick review of session chair timeline. On April 18th, you will receive an email with the login, with a link, and be able to log in with your AOCS credentials. At that point in time, you will also be able to review the assigned sessions that you will be being a session chair for. After that point in time and really right up to the meeting, feel free to, again, explore the site, and adding biographies for the presenters to the site was up to the presenter, but you certainly can begin if you'd like to compile a list of the presenters in your session with typically name, title, and institution for the brief introduction of each presenter in all of the sessions. We know some things come up in people's calendars and things change, but if for whatever reason you cannot attend in person to be a session chair moderator, please reach out to Lauren as soon as possible. All right, as Ellen mentioned at the beginning of our presentation today, we are going to have two types of presenters. The in-person in Atlanta presenter, they'll be presenting from the podium, very much usual. And then we're going to have the virtual via pre-recorded presenter. What that means, we'll get into that in a little bit, but essentially what that means is the presenters recording virtually will record their presentation and upload it to the platform. And again, we'll get into what that looks like in a minute. And we also will have two types of session chairs. So we'll have the in-person, again, very much like usual for all sessions. And then our virtual session chair. Again, just currently, we're not able to support a live session moderator. So your co-chair or an alternate will be there to participate as a session chair in Atlanta. But you still can take a very active role as a session chair, logging into that session, promoting discussion, asking questions in the chat. All of that is still very viable, and we would really appreciate your participation in that way. So what does it mean, again, to be a presenter in person at this meeting, at our hybrid meeting this year? So essentially, some things remain the same. So all presenters will come to the meeting room 20 minutes before the start of the session. They will upload their presentation to the podium laptop. All final presentations will be uploaded via USB to that podium laptop. One critical piece that we need to keep in mind is we cannot allow the presenters to swap out the computers. That is primarily due to our live streaming and also the recording that's taking place this year. So those are really important pieces for session chairs to know that if they can't bring a USB, we'll figure something out. We've had a session with all presenters yesterday, but they know that they need to bring a presentation and upload it to that podium laptop and cannot swap out the computer. Also, having them arrive early allows you to meet each of the presenters, and I think a big piece also for the presenters, which we reiterated yesterday, is to really be sure that they understand what their time slot is. While most presentations are 20 minutes, that 20-minute is also inclusive of the Q&A time. So if you have a 20-minute time slot and the presenter goes for 15 minutes, that allows that 5 minutes for the Q&A. And again, session chairs briefly introduces each presenter, name, title, organization, title of presentation before each presenter. Again, very similar in that way. When we get to a presenter that's presenting virtually via pre-recording, again, they will upload their presentation into the platform. And that is what will be played during their presentation slot. So we've given the presenters some discretion because some of them may not be available during the live session, during their recorded presentation. So we've given them the discretion to either record fully for their duration of their time slot, or reserve a few minutes at the end for Q&A if they are live and available to participate in that chat. And again, similar in the way whether you're doing a brief introduction for the presenters in person, or whether they're doing the recording, again, it's the same introduction. So new this year for session chairs. We are going to have a laptop at the podium. Again, this is for where all of the presentations will be uploaded if you're in person, and where you'll find the pre-recorded sessions, which will be in a folder on the podium laptop. And they will be labeled for your session. And when there is a pre-recorded session. You'll find the presentation title, you'll click it to launch, and it'll launch automatically. And at the end, you just close the recording and you move on to the next presenter. Relatively pretty straightforward. It'll all be available on that laptop at the podium for you to click and play those pre-recorded presentations. So new this year, we're going to have a laptop at the head table. This is where you'll be able to monitor the Q&A via the chat, and we'll be having the session playing there on that head table, so you can monitor that chat for the Q&A session. So we'll have 2 laptops this year. If for whatever reason there is a gap in the schedule, we're giving you, the session chair, some discretion as well. So aside from the fact that we want to adhere from the printed schedule, or to the printed schedule rather, if there is a gap in that schedule, your discretion to either expand on the Q&A, do an impromptu discussion, or you can hit pause essentially during that period of time. We'll leave it up to your discretion, but the bottom line is we really need to adhere to the printed schedule. So on to how we're going to be doing Q&A this year. Again, most of the presentations are 20 minutes, but time slots do vary, and the time slots do include the Q&A time. So presenting in person, very similar in the past, you'll take questions from the audience. This is where you will monitor at that head table laptop any questions that come into the Q&A or the chat, and to read those out loud to so make sure that the live audience can hear and see what's happening from the chat and the Q&A virtually from our virtual audience. The virtual audience will hear the answers from the presenter, so there's no need to repeat that answer. When we have a pre-recorded presentation, again, for the presenters, being available live during that presentation is not a requirement. However, some are planning to be there live and can handle some of the Q&A as it comes in via the chat. And again, the session chair will be asked to just read all those questions from the podium just to benefit all of the attendees in the room. Online presenters will type in the answers into the chat, and the session chairs will read those aloud. And again, not all, just a reminder for the pre-recording presenters, not all pre-recorded presentations will allow for time for Q&A. Again, that was a discretion for the presenters. So that is a really brief overview of sort of some of the changes with the hybrid meeting, how we're going about the Q&A this year, and how your role as a session chair has been modified slightly to accommodate the hybrid meeting this year. So I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Robert, with Breakout, which is our virtual meeting platform this year. And he's going to go through some of these training topics. So how it is for you to view the landing page and how that login process works, a brief overview of the site itself, and to demonstrate how you as a session chair can find your profile and how to update it, where you find the sessions that you're moderating and the time of those sessions, how you advance from in-person to the pre-recorded presentation, and then again, demonstrate how you can facilitate the Q&A both in person and virtually. So Robert, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Woods with Breakout, and I'm going to go ahead and take you through this step by step, and I'll stop in between each section for questions. So I'm going to share multiple screens here with you this morning. We're going to start with the landing page website. Okay, and everyone can see that, I assume? Great. All right, so this is the link that you'll be provided. And when you go to the website to log in here on this, what's going to happen is you're going to be redirected to the AOCS website, but I'm already logged in previously and I couldn't clear my cache. So what's going to happen is it's going to log you, it's actually going to redirect you straight to the SSO or to the AOCS website for login, and you use your AOCS credentials, and then it's going to kick you back to this homepage here. So I'm sorry for that. One issue with logging in and out these multiple times is it will actually, it's good, it'll remember your credentials and it'll automatically log you in for the next time. But that first time you log in, you just need to log in with your AOCS credentials, and it'll be on the AOCS website. So when you're here on the home page of the platform, what you're going to see is two areas here. First, you'll see, hey, check and manage all the sessions, which are the chair. So which we'll get to that in a second here, but let's start by going to our profile page. So on the top left, you'll see this bar expands out with all the different pages, and you'll be able to click down where you see your name and go down to my profile. My profile page will obviously be very blank at first, but in these top right sections here, you have edit profile and edit talks. Edit talks is if you, I know a lot of session chairs are also speakers. So if you're a part of the speaker training, then you'll see that the edit talks is where you actually upload your individual talks for presentation. But we're going to start with edit profile here, and you'll see it's just a normal profile editor. You can replace the default image with any photograph you'd like. You do the normal zoom in and out and rotations. Let's fix that actually. You could add pet photos as well as emoji selector. You could add badges. You can add your prefix and your suffix and all of your normal contact information here. You're also able to enter your ORCID information, your bio, contact information, and of course, all of your social media. All this will appear on your profile page, which is available to all the users. And except, of course, this the contact information up here is not going to be publicly available. But if you'd like to share a public email or phone number, this will be publicly available, which we've noted here. And then down here, you'll see a resources tab. This is an area, this isn't for presentations. This is where you can upload files that you'd like to share for download with any other members. So if you want to add PDFs, I know that a lot of recommendation is that presenters are uploading their talks here just to kind of have it as a storage. But this is an area where you can add 3 resources. And while this area has got a file size limit, the presentation MP4s from your members that they're uploading do not have any sort of upload limits. Down at the bottom of this here as well, you have permissions, and this is where you can change permissions that'll come up. A lot of these will be initiated when you first log in, having you accept notifications. And so some of these, like the receive emails, if you have a session and if you have a talk and there's an ongoing Q&A that happens in that talk after the session is done, you'll receive email notifications letting you know that new questions have been asked, so that members could continue engagement after the event is done. Okay, so before I move on from the profile editor page, any questions on editing the profile?
I don't see any right here, Robert.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
and Robert, if you wouldn't mind, I'll just mention, if you do have any questions as we go, Robert, like he said, he's going to pause and ask for questions out loud, but if anything pops up in your mind and you want to put it in the chat, I'm also monitoring that and I'm happy to answer in the chat as well.
Great. So from here, we'll go next to the home page. Sorry, I'm actually in a hotel internet. My internet's running a little bit slow. Apologize about that. And sorry, there's been some sort of state change here. I'm going to do a refresh. There we go. Sorry, I just need to do a refresh. And actually, that's a great note for session chairs in general or anyone using the platform. Just like any other website, if you do have any sort of strange kind of haunting issues, you can just go and refresh the page, and it'll fix the issue 99% of the time. So here, I was just going back to the home page here, and it just wasn't loading from my internet. But we'll move on to, now you want to see a session that you're the chair of, and you want to see the status of the uploads. on who is going to be live and who is not. So on the home page here, you can say a go to session list. And these are the sessions that Sam Woods is the chair of currently. So any sessions that you're a chair of will appear here, and you can click through to these sessions and you'll be able to see all the talks that are within the session. So, and this status here is an automated status, and that'll change. So if Kaylin Henderson uploads a talk for a presentation, then this status will change to a pre-recorded, and what will appear is a button will appear that says download their talk, and you'll have access to download the MP4s of anyone who's uploaded the talk to your session. This page also, this is where you can see the times of all the talks and the session itself. And yeah, I'm sorry. And then from this page as well, lastly, my Zoom window was hiding this. This is a great area if you want to get into the chat and Q&A from your own phone, or after the meeting is done. If you want to get back into the set, if not during the live session, when you have your head chair laptop, if you want to get back into the chat and Q&A, you can open this here, and this chat and Q&A is for the entire session. Sorry, it's for the entire session. And so, if you were to work within an individual talk and work within the chat and Q&A and logged in as a session chair, you will have session chair moderator access, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. If you log into the session page and log into the chat and Q&A, you'll see the chat and Q&A for all the talks within that session. So no matter which talk it is occurring on, you'll see it here as an aggregate. And then and those are the two ways. And then the third way, of course, which Bonnie discussed, on site itself, during the live session, you're going to have a laptop that is available to you. There's the podium laptop, then there's the actual head table laptop. And at that laptop, that's going to be logged in. You don't need to log into it with your login information. That's going to be logged in, and it's going to be logged in as basically as that room, as that session. And it'll be the session the session chair for that room. And all of the sessions, you'll be able to manage the chat and Q&A because they'll be open for that session throughout the day, and you'll be able to see it just on that screen as well, and manage it there. So you don't need to use your phones or your personal laptops in the room itself. This will all be taken care of on that laptop, that head table. If you do, for some reason, want to use it on a laptop or a phone, it is designed to work on any platform. It'll auto change its formatting for you. So before I go into a little deeper delve into chat and Q&A, is there any questions on this status page of the sessions that you're the chair of?
I have a quick question. On the status page, will we be able to tell before the meeting that the presentation has been uploaded so that we can follow up, or how do we know that? Thank you.
It's okay, of course. And this is really, so just to make that's a good point for clarification. This is simply a status page for who has uploaded MP4s of their pre-recorded talks. This does not show who has the presenters are still going to on site, going to be bringing their presentations to the laptop at the podium with a flash drive. So this system and this monitor for you is just to see these statuses here, the in-person. It'll change to pre-record to say that they have means that they have uploaded a pre-recorded talk and have agreed to be a pre-recorded presentation, and they will not be on site. So when you see, I'll actually show you that status change in a second. It's I've got some kind of pre-populated data shots that I can show you what the change looks like. But it's just and then when they do as well, the other main change is that a large download button is going to appear where you're able to download the talk. And then actually I will address that again, your question again on my next screen share. And actually, why don't I go there now? If anybody else has any other questions on that section. So I'm going to give you a little preview of the session chair user guide. And the session chair user guide, this will be provided to you as a resource. But so this is kind of what the chat and Q&A for the sessions themselves end up looking like whenever it's more populated. The chat is free flow, so people just can speak freely through it. But the Q&A is the moderated, and these moderator controls. If you're session chair, and as I said, if you're logged into the talk page or the session page as a session chair or the in-room laptop, you'll have these controls. So when people ask questions, you'll be able to mark them as answered. You could delete questions that are either off topic or inappropriate. And then you can, of course, participate in upvoting as well. You can click up and down with the upvotes. And anyone in the chat and Q&A can upvote questions, of course. And so you'll be able to see the popularity of questions. And then when you're actually at the podium itself to give, I'd like to stop before I move on from that. Any other questions about the chat and Q&A while I've got this open here?
Yeah, Robert, actually, I've got a question. Suppose
Yes.
suppose someone has presented something and it's, oh, I don't know, 30 minutes later, or maybe even, that night, and I suddenly think of a question that I wish that I had asked to the presenter. Can I go into the Q&A and ask that question at that point? And if they've got notifications enabled, they'll get the notification that I asked?
Great question. Yes. So the chat and Q&A is persistent and paired to that talk. So the talk page itself, that this will be persistent as long as the site is hosted. I believe the plan is to host it through December, but I'm not sure that. I don't want to speak out of turn. That was the request. That was the early request I saw. But ultimately, this meeting is going to be hosted online for some determined amount of time after the event is done. And all of this will stay, and any new questions, you could ask a question 2 months from now. And if they had their permissions checked, because the profiles are also persistent in our system, we don't delete the profiles. They'll still get the notification email with your question, and they can continue engagement months later.
So a follow-up then is, suppose I've just given a talk in person, is the Q&A enabled for that in-person talk as well?
Q&A. So do you mean like if you're live, a live presenter, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So when you're I think as Bonnie had gone through earlier a little bit, if you're a live presenter, on-site live Q&A, everything heard in the room.
Okay.
Yeah, it's getting fed into the system, and then everything in the system is going to be repeated back out through from the session chair. Actually, yeah,
Awesome.
to the room. So in the event that the presenter is live in that chat room, of course, of course there'll be a live presenter in the room, but for the pre-recorded, if that presenter decides not to show up for the live talk time, then of course that's where they talked about the discretion of how to use that time.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Robert, one other.
Sorry.
Just real quick. One question here is, I know you mentioned that the Q&A would stay with the presentation. Does the chat also stay with the presentation? Are both,
It does, yeah.
for months? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Robert, can you explain one more time what those arrows at right? What do they do?
Oh, the arrows. So those are upvotes. So any of the members, people can upvote questions and they'll rise to the top.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you.
And then a quick, back onto this page to show you the status change. And actually, I need to update this because they haven't even, some of our latest pushes, the download button's not there. So, you can see the status change. It'll be online or in person is what it changes to, is the status. And then there'll be a download button here. I'm going to update this user guide before you all see it. This is the speaker user guide with the latest front end design. So you'll see it there in the user guide. I apologize that's not there now. And then lastly, the podium itself.
Robert,
yes.
I apologize. Can I ask one more question about the Q&A section?
All the questions you want, please.
Thank you. Will virtual presenters answer questions in the chat tab or the Q&A tab?
Q&A tab.
Thank you.
For sure. I mean, and that's the kind of one reality is that we have noticed, some people, and that's something that the session chair moderating that Q&A could be helpful for. We have noticed that some people do just kind of use the chat tab as, they start asking questions in it. And that's, it's something good that's a great note, is that for the session chairs to kind of take note of that, maybe just poke into the chat area every now and again. And if people are asking questions there, just invite them over to the Q&A tab.
So from the podium, from the laptop at the head table, where
At the
session
left, yeah.
chairs will be able to, see the chats coming in from the remote presenters, they'll have the option to toggle between the chat and the Q&A and back and forth to make sure, like you said, somebody hasn't inadvertently put a question in the chat.
Yeah, in fact, to that note, no, it'll be more than that. We'll pop out the, well, it's optional, but I think it's a good view. You could pop out the Q&A into a full screen, and where you don't see tabs, you just, half of your screen is chat, half of your screen is Q&A. And I think that would actually be a great view for the head table.
Yeah, I think it might be. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so onto the podium laptop. If everybody, any other questions on chat or the status area? Okay, great. So the podium. So the podium is just going to be just like anything you've ever worked with. There's no surprises here, and we're trying to keep it simple. It's going to be, everything will be PC, of course. Even if you see a lot of different technology around it, you're ultimately running, it's a Windows laptop. And so on that laptop, there's going to be a series of folders. Those folders will only be the folders for the sessions for that day. We will be, these folders are automatically populated from our system, and they're populated every 15 minutes with the MP4 files that are uploaded by presenters for these different sessions. So when you approach the podium, you'll only see probably 2 or 3 different folders on it for the sessions in that room in that day. And the folder will be named with your session title, and you double click on the folder and you'll see the names and presentation name of the presenting MP4s. And whenever it's time for, so they'll just be there. And of course so then whenever it's time to launch one of the MP4s, you double click it like you would any other MP4, play the video, and then when it's done, close it. And then you could and then you toggle back over if you need to play a local drive. You have your preloaded USB presentations from before the talk time, and you launch those locally, just like you would any other PowerPoint presentation. So it's just launching PowerPoint presentations from your live presenters on site, and the pre-recorded MP4s from the pre-populated folders. And as I mentioned, it's refreshed every 15 minutes. So if they replace their video, then this will replace it as well on the desktop. Any questions on the podium?
Robert, maybe one point of clarification too, the presenters who are there in person, they'll be uploading their presentation to the desktop, to the podium laptop, and they too can come up and just launch their presentation as well. While the session chair is doing the brief introduction, they can come to the podium and launch their PowerPoint as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and that's what we really stress, and it's a great point, Bonnie, is just that the podium should just be ran like a regular session. You won't have anything, no anomalies or anything different other than launching MP4s versus PowerPoint presentations. So great, and I think that covers all of the areas from the scheduled plan. Did I miss anything? Is there any general questions on that I could answer?
Robert, can you just explain one more time? So when a session chair goes to the podium laptop, finds the pre-recorded presentation in the folder you showed and plays it, how will that be shown to the virtual audience as well as the in-room audience? Can you explain that?
Sure. So basically everything that takes place on the podium and plays out, it's going to be, or the podium laptop will be treated like any other a typical AV setup. So it will be playing on the screens in the room. Anything that gets launched from the podium will go on the screens. But the laptop itself is, that's where our software lives, and we're capturing selective. We don't capture everything. We selectively capture the second screen output and the audio inputs. And so so everything that's going on in that laptop, like in a normal room, we're just selectively capturing parts of it out, and we're streaming it to our platform. So anything that is, ultimately anything you play there on that laptop's going to be recorded. And this is actually a good, some questions that came up previously about start and stop times, and if people get off schedule, how that affects recordings. Like I said, anything that's happening in that room, we're capturing. And then we have our system automates our clippings based on schedules, but we've got everything outside of that schedule as well that happens on that laptop. And so ultimately, when the clips for each talk, the final say in that clip, even though so much of it's automated, but at that last moment, a human being is going to do the clipping. So even if you're off a few minutes, somebody gets there 5 minutes late, you don't have to worry that somehow the stream is going to be off and there's going to be start and stops, or it's always a human being doing that final clip. Did that answer your question, Ellen? And then add like 17 more data points.
I think it does. Another question is, what will the online audience see when a presentation is not playing? So when it's a live stream situation, but there's no presentation going on.
Yeah, so there'll be two views. If you go to a talk page and there's in the video on demand section, and nothing has been streamed yet, there's just the video box is moved up and it says check back later, coming soon for an event or for the meeting itself. In the live now, when people are watching the live now only populates when the live stream is actually happening. So ultimately, we'll see if the laptop switches in between talks. And we need to discuss this as we get there, but I assume there's going to be a looping slideshow on the screens. So whenever it goes in between those talks, that looping slideshow is ultimately is going to be what's going to show up in the live now while they're waiting for the next talk. But then those sections get clipped out, all cut out whenever it comes time for the VOD section.
Robert, can we expect the transition between MP4 talks that we're broadcasting and PowerPoints that we're presenting to be pretty seamless, or are we likely to have a stumble there?
No, I expect them to be seamless, just like it'll just be a normal MP4 launch, play, and close. And yeah, it absolutely. There's not really any system switches that have to happen. There's nothing on our side that changes. It's the only thing. It's just like launching 2 different file types on a desktop of any day of the week. And granted, with that said, we are of course working in Windows, and so Windows, like anything, can have its issues, but there's nothing system-wise that would cause any sort of concern.
Hi, I have 2 general questions. One is, what is the deadline for pre-recording uploaded in the system?
Let's say April 27th.
That's correct.
It is
Okay.
correct.
And another thing is, the chair or co-chair who are not going in Atlanta. So should they delegate someone who can, moderate the sessions instead of them? So this selection of the person should be done by the chair, or it should be done, it will be done by the AOCS people.
I'm so sorry. I was in the chat. I didn't hear the question.
Okay, because
Ellen, I think I could answer that. Hi, this is Lauren. So I am working with all the session chairs and just notifying them if they're going to be on site, if they're not, and then also if neither chair can be on site at the meeting. I'm trying to find an alternate, so that'll most likely be one of the other presenters in the session, but I could touch base with you after the call and send you an email.
Okay.
There was a question, and I know Ellen, you answered it beautifully, but just to reiterate, when you are presenting in person, the PowerPoints will be downloaded directly onto that Podium laptop desktop because there is more than one presenter. So it's not feasible to just play it off of your USB drive. So it should be downloaded on that Podium laptop, and you can keep it up and just minimize it So when it is your turn, you can just quickly find it on the bottom of the screen and then just pop it up and go ahead and start playing that presentation. So just to clarify that.
Bonnie, I think one of the concerns might be regarding intellectual property. If a presenter is finished with presenting their talk, would it be possible for them to, as they are about to step away from the podium, to simply hit the delete button on that so that it goes away?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We'll
Thank
leave that at your discretion as a presenter in terms of what you feel for intellectual property is necessary, but absolutely, you are welcome to delete that. And I would encourage all presenters just to do that so the desktop doesn't get too overwhelming by the end of the meeting, but and we'll be clearing those as well at the end of the day anyway, but absolutely feel free to do that at your discretion. Robert, I think one more point for clarification is our pre-recorded presenters. So when it does show that there is a pre-recording, can we assume that that presentation is indeed, we can find that in the folder on the desktop?
Yes, yeah, it'll be anything that says that it's pre-recorded. You'll A, be able to download it directly, and then B, it'll appear on the desktop in that folder. And also, actually, that's right when you said that, I thought of two other notes. Did that answer your question? Sorry, Bonnie, first, before I move on?
Yeah, I think the question is when it is on the schedule as a pre-recorded, that is what the presenter has chosen to participate in. But I guess the question is as a session chair, if it does indicate that it is pre-recorded, are we guaranteed that that presenter has indeed uploaded their recording and that it should be in that folder?
Oh, I see what you mean. So that's actually, so the folder can be used, that list that I showed you could be used as that cross-reference. So if you know that, hey, 3 of my speakers have said that they're pre-recorded and they're not coming, and then you look at that list and you see that all of them say that they're in person, that means those people have not uploaded an MP4 file. And so you on this list here, well, why am I showing you this one? Let me just go to the real list. On this list here, like right now, if you know that these first 2 people, they said they've registered and they said that they are pre-recorded, they're not going to be here. And if as long as it says in person, that means our system does not have anything from them. And our system assumes they're in person and it's not sending anything to that room. So this, this would definitely could be a good cross-reference list for you to verify anyone who has selected that, who has not uploaded their talks. And so one note, 2 items to note, I guess. One is, kind of back to the question of the persistent chat, and generally, to understand the video on demand for these are going to be available within 24 hours of the live talk. And so there's a lot of people do, schedule these to watch live, but with the video on demand section is very popular, especially on chat Q&A during the week on these sessions. So it's definitely a good idea to pop back into the sessions every now and again and to monitor activity. Also, for the one item of note for AV, basically for the rooms itself, is microphones are a must. The death knell for these recordings is when we hear somebody say, "Hey, this is a small room, right? Everyone can hear me," and then the rest of the recording is silence. So it's very important to have your users or have the speakers use the microphones no matter what size the room is.
Hey, can I ask a question? It's Julian Barnes here.
Of course.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, I apologize. I joined only halfway through this, and I'll probably have to look at the recording of this. And also, I guess there's a PDF on how to do this sort of virtual and live AOCS sessions, I guess. And so my other question is, are we going to get a meeting when we're in AOCS to go through the room and virtual methodology? How we usually when I'm in conferences,
Covered that in
you
the
have a sort
start of the
practice.
call, Julian. So I think maybe when you're able to watch back, I'm guessing some of your questions are going to be answered, but you will receive a PDF, a step-by-step guide on how to use the platform on Monday when you get the URL and a reminder on how to log in.
Yeah, and how to use and then to use the room, you just arrive 15 minutes before and
right, we're asking session chairs exactly to arrive, 15, 20 minutes before the start of the session. Make sure all your presenters, your live presenters are there. Make sure your live presenters are uploading their their presentations to the desktop on the podium using their USB drives, things like that.
All right, thanks. Yeah, sorry, I'm repeating things you've probably been through, so thank you.
It's okay. It's okay. Everybody can use a refresher.
Thanks.
Robert, I have a question. How will we know if the virtual presenters are going to be available to answer questions in the Q&A so we can facilitate? Will we get this information?
That's a great question, and I don't think from our side, from the breakout system, there's outside of direct messaging them through the platform. But Ellen, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Robert, that's exactly what I was thinking. While a pre-recorded presentation is playing from the laptop at the head table, the session chair could send a chat message to the presenter. Hello, Dr. Jones, will you be able to answer questions live today, and see if they respond. And if not, I think you can safely assume they're not there to answer questions. And if they do, they're ready and ready and able to engage in that live Q&A.
Can we message them individually or only message everyone in the chat?
Yeah, you can do that, message them individually. Absolutely. And on the if you actually want to, well, I'm not sure how much you want to delve into that, but there's also in the user guide, you'll see how to navigate the user directory and to direct message.
Will we get bios of the speakers? We usually get that right before the talks.
Yes, so all of the presenters have been asked to go into the platform starting Monday and to review if there's already a bio in there for them or update it.
Okay.
So over the next few weeks, you'll kind of see bios start to come in. But if there is no bio in the platform, that means we don't have it. So we recommend just using, name, title, affiliation, and going from there.
And second question, I guess is session chairs, we're encouraged to prepare 1 or 2 questions in case there aren't questions, right?
It certainly can't hurt. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
One of the things we covered earlier, Julian, just because I know you weren't here, but some of the pre-recorded presentations, if it's the middle of the night and they're part of the world, they're likely not going to join for live Q&A. So we've given them the option to record a video for the entire length of their talk, and then there just won't be any time for Q&A, and they know that, and they're fine with it.
Wow.
So you might not need all of your kind of just in case of emergency questions, but it can't hurt to have them.
Thanks, Ellen.
Robert, there is a question in the chat I thought you could answer. Someone is asking, what is the streaming platform? Zoom, Teams?
No, the breakout is the streaming platform. It's a proprietary built-in streaming platform.
Thank you.
One thing, if I can jump in real quick, and I'm gonna put on my official hat real quick, and that is say, hey everybody, we've got a really great opportunity here because this is the first hybrid meeting that we're doing, and hopefully it's not going to be the last. But it just dawned on me as I've been taking notes during this presentation that we're probably going to learn some best practices while we're in the thick of it and see some things that we need to be doing, things that we should be announcing as chairs and things like that. So if you would do us and then the future chairs a favor and actually note what those things that you may have done or figured out during the actual session we can make sure that this meeting just continues to get better and better as we go forward.
Thank you so much, Rick. Yes, always learning and eager to know how to do it better in the future, for sure.
Yeah, great idea. Thank you.
To take that one step farther, why don't you plan on sending an email to all the session chairs and ask us to respond to you with things we think need to be improved or changed?
Sure. Would you like that immediately following the annual meeting, or?
As close after as possible.
Okay, will do.
Any other questions? We're got about 10 minutes here to review anything that you might need additional clarification on, answer any other pending questions you might have at this time. So just as a follow-up, I put it in the chat earlier, but worth repeating. So by the end of the week, you'll get a link to this recording so you can review it entirely as a resource. We'll send it out to every session chair. So for those who couldn't make it today, we have another session chair training later this evening as well to accommodate schedules. But we'll be sending out a link to this recording and some additional resources, such as the one that Robert was showing us, this session chair guide. So we'll send that out. And in that, we'll also make some, just recap some of the highlights and some of the notes that we think are pertinent for you to know at this time. And again, please let us know if you have any questions once receiving that. We're definitely here to help.
All right. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Have a good day.